I have some additional questions, and they're about Trump and the tariffs on EU. Is it okay to process to them?
Yes.
Now, Trump put 50% tariffs on the EU. How big will be the impact of these tariffs on the Europeans actually?
Well, number one, let me back up. As you recall, I was President Reagan's advisor, and I happen to be a free trader and a free market economist. So I'm against all sanctions. I'm against all tariffs. I'm against all quotas. I'm against all non-tariff barriers. I'm against all interferences with commerce as a matter of principle. And also as a matter of practice, because we have a very large, deep scholarly literature on sanctions and tariffs, and they don't work. That's what the scholars have found over the centuries. They don't work. And let me give you an example, like sanctions, for example. If we come to the Western Hemisphere and look at the United States, we've had sanctions on Cuba ever since Fidel Castro and the revolution. But the communists are still in power in Cuba. Now, why? It's because the sanctions make Cubans rally around the flag, and they make the communists more popular than they would have been otherwise. If we hadn't had sanctions, I think the communists would have been thrown out in Cuba a long time ago. Look at Venezuela, a little further south than Cuba. We've had President Maduro in power now for 11 years, and Venezuela is a country I know very well because I was a chief advisor for President Rafael Caldera in Venezuela in 1995 and 1996. So I watch it very carefully, and I know quite a bit about it. Why is he's a flaming socialist / communist, Maduro.
Yes.
And the economy has had 2 hyperinflations since Maduro's been in power, and the economy is terrible, absolutely terrible. You've had huge immigration out of Venezuela ever since he's been in power. Why is he in power? Because of the U.S. sanctions. It's a rally around the flag thing. His base of support is strong because of external sanctions, because the sanctions and tariffs, they're a weapon of war. In other words, back to Europe, Trump has declared war on Europe with these tariffs. Now, one thing to understand, the Europeans are not going to pay the tariffs. Americans pay the tariffs. When Americans import something from Europe, the Americans pay the tariff. The Europeans don't. But it is very bad for trade and destroys the gains from trade, because let's say Mario's exporting something to Hankey, and if Mario agrees to sell something to Hankey, Mario's obviously benefiting. If Hankey agrees to buy it, Hankey's obviously benefiting. So there are gains from trade between the exchange, Mario selling to Hankey. Now a tariff comes in and interferes, and the U.S. government extracts part of the gains from trade as a tax, and that tax goes into the U.S. government budget. So it's bad. Now the other thing to get in mind is that there is no agreement. All these agreements, these deals that Trump is doing, nothing is written, nothing is signed, and Trump is a very mercurial individual, so he could change his mind any time. He's a kind of person, a mercurial person is the type who can shake your hand in the morning and stab you in the back at night. So you don't know what he's going to do. And by the way, the EU Commission, of course, they can't deliver on what van der Leyen promised. She said that the Europeans would invest $600 billion in the U.S. But the EU has no power to mandate that. The EU Commission can't mandate that companies in Bulgaria invest in the United States. It was a vacuous promise. It didn't mean anything. And it's not in writing. I think what will happen, by the way, I think the economic premise for Trump's tariffs are rubbish, and the legal premise is also probably rubbish. The tariffs are in the U.S. Court of Appeals right now because Trump is based, and the premise for the tariffs is that the U.S. is in some kind of emergency. This is ridiculous. We've had a trade deficit since 1975, and we've never been in any kind of emergency as a result of that. So I think the courts might, and we'll know this within 2 weeks, by the way. I think the courts might throw this out. They might throw all the tariffs out. The reciprocal tariffs, I mean. This might be finished within 2 weeks. And then Trump would have to go to some alternative mechanism.
On top of that, with this complicated relations with Europe, now Trump, we all know that he put the tariffs on China, and how this situation will unfold. How do you see it?
Oh, I think the Chinese hold almost all the cards because the Chinese, and by the way, I'm a special advisor at Renmin University in Beijing, which is, of course, the most important university in China. So it's something I know a little bit about. And I'm also a special advisor to AMG Critical Materials. I was actually on the board for 12 years of AMG Critical Materials in Amsterdam. And we're a cutting edge company in critical materials like lithium, vanadium, niobium, all these exotic rare earths and so forth. And China dominates the critical materials. They control these things. What I call the 3 M's, mining, metallurgy, and material science, China dominates. And they could essentially stop the U.S. economy within about 6 to 9 months if they cut off the flow of critical materials they control into the United States and Europe. So China runs the show, and that's why you're seeing Trump back off. He's backed off of China. Remember, he started like he did with Europe and India, waging war on them and making enemies, by the way. Trump's making enemies in Europe. You think Europeans are in love with Trump? You got to be kidding. How about Modi in India? You think he's in love with Trump now?
Yeah, this was a bit strange because India actually exports a lot to USA. Why this actually happened? This move against India?
Well, I think it happened because number one, Mario, I don't know why it happened because I'm not an insider. I wasn't there when it happened, so I have no direct evidence. But my conjecture is that following, and that is, you have to understand with a mercurial personality, and you can look up what mercurial means. You don't know what that person is going to do and why they're going to do it. So I maybe Trump doesn't even know why he did it. I don't know. But it's a very bad move because India, unlike Bulgaria, let's face it, the subcontinent is a huge. It's the most populous country in the world, India. It's big. The population exceeds the population in China right now, and geopolitically, it's very important. And the U.S. has had hot and cold relations with India for a long time, and it looked like they were getting hot with Modi and Trump, and now all of a sudden that's been flipped and they're cold. So Modi is going to Beijing in the next couple of weeks for the first time in 7 years. In India typically is a tense relationship with China. Now I think that relationship will become stronger. India has always had a strong relationship with Russia, so that will be strong. And so you'll have Russia, China, and India together, and the rest of the BRICS. The most important country in South America is Brazil. And Lula, the president of Brazil, has indicated that he supports Modi in India. So you can see this tariff madness that Trump is involved in is creating a lot of enemies for the United States, and a stronger alliance of countries and organizations like BRICS that will be designing policies to protect themselves from America. And they should, because America is waging war. This is warfare. Tariffs are instruments of war. Sanctions are instruments of war. This is the same as gunboat diplomacy. In the old days, what you did, you sail a big destroyer in off the shore of France or Italy and demand that France or Italy do something that you wanted them to do. Or you'd run a ship into the Black Sea off the coast of Bulgaria, and you'd tell the Bulgarian leadership you wanted them to do something. And if they didn't do it, you'd shoot at them. Well, tariffs would do the same thing, so do sanctions.
So basically what Trump is doing is making BRICS stronger and stronger. Is that correct?
Correct.
And the last thing I just want to ask you is about the sanctions against the Russians. We see like 18 packages of sanctions from EU to Russia. Is this actually having some actual effect on Russia or not? And are we going to see actually Russia to be hurt from sanctions the way that the West actually looking at that matter?
Well, the sanctions have done what sanctions always do. They've backfired in the following way. They've actually made Putin stronger. Number one, and they were designed to make him weaker. Well, no, they made him stronger, and they have basically destroyed. They're in the process of destroying the most important manufacturing country in Europe, which is Germany. The energy prices are about triple, 3 times higher than they are in the United States, and the manufacturing industry in Germany is being destroyed. So it's a complete disaster for Europe. Europe, the stupidity of Europe and the EU is just mind-boggling. The sanctions, the cost of the sanctions rest primarily in Western Europe.
And Germany, they actually want the Nord Streams back because this was actually the most important thing to the German economy because the gas was coming from Russia.
Well, that's not exactly correct. Chancellor Merz is talking about cutting off Nord Stream 1, the one that works. They're receiving energy now, and he wants to cut that off.
Okay, let's say the opposition in Germany. Let's put it that way.
Oh yeah. The opposition wants, but the opposition wants to start Nord Stream 2 and actually import more energy to reduce the energy cost in Germany. I agree with that. I agree with that. Merz, who's a chancellor in the current coalition government, he wants to cut all of the Nord Stream off, total. which would be insane, because it would even drive the cost of energy in Germany even higher and destroy more German industry. German industry, it's leaving Germany as we speak. It's a complete disaster. Germany, most people don't realize, about 23% of GDP in Germany is in the manufacturing sector. The average in most of the countries in Europe, it's about 12%. So Germany is very heavily weighted towards manufacturing, and that is being destroyed. And it's being destroyed because of the sanctions against Russia and the cutting off of energy coming from Russia, cheap energy coming from Russia.
Mr. Hanke, thank you about this interview. It was a big pleasure for me. When I put the videos on YouTube, I will give you the links for it. And I hope that we can talk about world economics sometimes.
That's great. We'll follow up. I think we had a good interview, Mario.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
When do you think you'll put this up?
In the following days, tomorrow or the day after, something like that.
Okay, good. So it'll probably go. I think there is one breaking piece of news in this. Let me ask you what you think it is.
Well, for me, as a Bulgarian, it's about your visit in the White House. About this,
correct.
Let's say,
correct.
Yes.
Correct. That's breaking news. You're the only one in Bulgaria who knows this.
Well, I'm really grateful for that. Thank you.
Okay. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thank
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.